All right, let's talk about something we've probably all faced. A favorite gadget just dies. Inside, there's a circuit board that looks incredibly complicated, but it doesn't have to be intimidating. Today, we're going to turn that confusion into a clear, step-by-step investigation. Yep, we've all been there. You pop open the case and you're staring at this maze of tiny components. It's a lot. And that feeling of being totally overwhelmed can make you want to just start guessing. But trust me, there is a much, much better way to do this. So here's the big idea. Stop treating repair like a game of chance. You've got to start thinking like a detective. A methodical approach is going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it'll save you the massive headache of accidentally causing even more damage. Okay, let's dive in. Here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why just guessing is a bad idea. Then, we're going to follow the power step by step, checking out 5 key types of components in a really logical order. By the end, you'll go from a guesser to a true diagnostician. So, first things first, let's talk about this trap. Randomly swapping out parts is, well, it's just not efficient. I mean, sure, you might get lucky once in a while, but most of the time, you're just going to waste parts and a whole lot of time. A structured approach lets you actually pinpoint the problem with precision. Okay, so where do we start? Our investigation always kicks off with the simplest and, honestly, the most common point of failure, the fuse. You can think of it as the circuit's little sacrificial hero. It's literally designed to blow and protect all the more expensive stuff from a power surge. So naturally, it's always the very first thing you check. And you know what? Testing it is super easy. Just flip your multimeter to continuity mode, the one that makes the beeping sound. Then, touch one probe to each end of the fuse. If you hear a nice steady beep, the fuse is good. If all you hear is silence, well, you've just found your first culprit. Simple as that. So, what if the fuse is good? No problem at all. Our investigation just moves to the next logical step. We follow the power right to where it enters the board, the voltage input section. Because these parts are the first to handle that raw power from the wall, this area is a real hotspot for failures. And right here, we find our next usual suspect, the diodes. The easiest way to think of them is like little one-way streets for electricity. Their main job is to take that alternating current, or AC, from your wall and start changing it into the direct current, DC, that pretty much all electronics need to run. Now, on a board, you're usually going to see one of 2 setups. On one hand, you might have 4 separate diodes that you'll have to test one by one. With your multimeter in diode mode, you should get a reading in one direction and absolutely nothing when you swap the probes. A 0 or a reading both ways means it's bad. On the other hand, you might see a single black box called a bridge rectifier. The rules here are a little different. You should never get a reading across the 2 AC input pins, but you should get one across the DC output pins, but only when you have the probes reversed. Okay, so once the electricity gets rectified, it's not quite ready for prime time. The power is still a little bit choppy. It needs to be smoothed out. And that brings us to our next key players, the main filter capacitor and the high-speed output diodes. Right after those diodes, the power flows into a big capacitor. This thing acts like a mini reservoir, taking that bumpy DC voltage and smoothing it out into a nice, stable supply. Now, these electrolytic capacitors have a limited lifespan. They can fail from age or heat, which makes them a very common failure point. It's usually the biggest can-shaped component on the board, so it's pretty easy to spot. So how do you check a capacitor? Well, there are 3 really simple ways. First, just use your eyes. If the top of it is swollen or bulging, that's a dead giveaway that it's failed. Second, you can do a quick continuity test. It should give a short beep as it charges up and then go silent. If it beeps continuously, it's shorted out. And finally, if your multimeter has a capacitance function, just measure it. The reading should be pretty close to the value printed right on the side of the component. All right, so the power is now smooth, it's stable, it then gets sent out to the rest of the circuit, but not before passing through another set of diodes. These are a special high-speed type called Schottky diodes, and they're absolutely critical for the efficiency of modern power supplies. They also have their own way of being tested. Now, these often come in a little 3-pin package, which can look a bit confusing, but it's not. The trick is to put your negative probe on the center pin. That's the common connection. Then, touch your positive probe to each of the outer pins one at a time. A good one will show a low reading, even lower than a regular diode. Then, when you reverse the probes, you should get no reading at all. If it reads both ways, bingo, you found your problem. So, we've checked the input, the rectification, and the filtering. What's next? Well, now we've arrived at the power stage. This is where you find components like transistors and thyristors. They act like super fast, heavy-duty switches, controlling where all that electricity goes. They handle a ton of current and can get pretty hot, which, you guessed it, makes them prime candidates for failure. One of the key players you'll often find here is a triac. It's a type of thyristor, which is a fancy way of saying it's a really sophisticated switch that's designed to handle a lot of AC power. If this component fails, then whatever it's supposed to be controlling, like a motor or a heating element, is just not going to work. Testing a triac might seem tricky, but it's really just about knowing which pins to check. And this table makes it super clear. You should only get a reading between the gate pin and the A1 pin. Between A1 and A2, or the gate and A2, there should be absolutely nothing. If you get any kind of reading on those other pairs, the component has failed. It's as simple as that. And just like that, we've done it. We've gone from just randomly poking around and hoping for the best to using a logical, step-by-step diagnostic method. See? You're no longer just guessing. You're actually deducing the problem. So let's run through that detective's checklist one last time, shall we? You always start with the fuse. Then you move to the input rectifier diodes. Next up, the main filter capacitor. After that, the output Schottky diodes. And finally, you interrogate those power stage components, like triacs. You're simply following the path of the power, and that, right there, is the secret. You know, this quote from the source material really just nails it. The whole point isn't to check every single tiny component on the board. It's about checking the right components in the right order. It's about working smarter, not harder. By following this logical path, you've turned a really daunting task into a totally manageable process. You've got the map, you've got the method. So the only question left is, what are you going to bring back to life?